Alright, so I made this video because I wanted to check and see how different drill bit brands perform at their rated RPMs as well as an RPM that they're more likely to be used at in a hand drill. I don't know about you, but I have almost never drilled into steel using my Gear 1. Now, if I'm using a spade bit or a paddle bit on wood, then yeah, I might switch to Gear 1, but I pretty much, my drill stays in speed 2 at all times. So we ran into an instance on the job where our drill bits were melting on the stainless steel. They weren't melting when I was using them, but they were melting for another technician. So I wanted to test and see what was going on here. Now I'm naturally, I naturally tend to vary the force of whenever I'm using a drill bit because I'm following my chip size. If I'm making good chips, then it's looking good, and I keep going. If I'm not making good chips, then I adjust my pressure or I adjust my speed. I add cutting oil, things like that. So what I'm doing in here is I'm actually checking to see how these bits perform at their rated 600 RPMs. While you're drilling mild steel, you should be running a 3/8 drill bit around it's 600 to 800 RPMs roughly. Some will let you go as high as 1,000. My drill press doesn't have enough speed, so 600 RPM is what I ended up going with. Now, I will say that the geometry of these drill bits, they cut really, really well at 600 RPM on this drill press. You're able to get a good amount of down pressure on it. It might look like I'm truly bearing down, but I'm not. I'm just getting my hands in a position that allows me to push what feels consistent. I am pushing down pretty hard though, because if I'm drilling holes, I mean, I guess if I'm doing it at home and I got all weekend, sure, I might not press very hard. But typically when I'm drilling steel, it's because I've got a job that I got to do, and I'm not trying to be here all day. So I tend to kind of try to mix the fastest speed along with the best tool wear. So if I can push down a little bit harder, then I'm going to. If I can run at a little bit higher RPM and get a better performance, then I'm going to. So what I'm actually finding here is that I've stepped it up to the 1800 RPM. The drilling is a lot less enjoyable now. There's a lot of vibration. The chips are very small. You can see this Cobalt is really throwing small chips just everywhere as opposed to those just really nice long curly cues. The Dewalt pilot point, I stopped at only 2 holes because there's so much vibration at the higher RPM once I get towards breaking through the back of the steel. And I'm not trying to break that bit. It's just not really necessary. On the drill press, it's just that high of an RPM for that drill bit is just not good. So yeah, I do go through and as I said, I mean, you can see these Dewalt high-speed steel bits throwing pretty decent looking chips everywhere. They're really, really, really long. They're climbing up that bit well. Some bits seem to be able to handle the 1800 RPM without an issue, while others, they just prefer the 600. So, yeah, that's where I can kind of tell you that check your drill bit chart if you're using it on a bit. If you're using a bit on a drill press, check your speed chart for your material hardness and your drill bit diameter, and I'm going to fully recommend that you stick with that. And that's going to be because the geometry of your bit is designed to cut at that speed for that material. So the Craftsman, you can see here, which just passed, it slowed down a little bit, and then the Bauer at 1800 RPM, that's the last one. But overall, I'm going to have to say that stick with the 600 RPMs when you are using a drill press. All right, guys, so this is going to be wrapping up that video regarding testing these drill bits on the drill press. So just to kind of cover them, I will say that it was different using each one. I've used the Dewalt high-speed steel black gold for quite a while, maybe 6 years now, maybe closer to 7 or 8. But I've been using this style a bit for quite some time, and it's just good overall. It's a well-rounded bit. I don't have a problem with it, and it's really cheap. I can get the entire expanded size bit set for $14 or $15 on sale at Lowe's sometimes. And then I can get the limited number, like the 14 piece. I can get the 14 piece for $10 very, very often. So now this bit, you can't see it. I don't have a super close-up camera, but the Dewalt high-speed steel, it did get a little bit hot. But overall, the drilling experience was really, really good. The Bauer it stayed super cool. It really did make me into a believer on this titanium nitride coating. We'll go over the numbers and I'll show you that. I mean, this thing stayed very, very cool. It did not, however, perform well on the 1800 RPM. So the Cobalt also did not perform very well on the 1800 RPM. I think it did okay. I'm not going to throw it away, but overall, the bit in and of itself, it's, I think it was $30, and I got a giant number of drill bits. It's competing kind of with the Warrior, that huge pack of drill bits. I didn't buy it because it's supposed to be fast. I bought it because of the huge selection of fractional bits. They're very close to lettered and numbered bits, such as like an F bit or a number 7 bit, and that's if you're going to be tapping holes. So the performance is not great overall, but it does the job, and it stays fairly cool. The Craftsman, these cut a little bit better than I expected. They are pretty noisy. I didn't quite understand that, but they were fairly noisy. I will say after using them on both low and high speed, I won't be buying these again. They just don't perform well enough to make me consider switching away from like the Dewalt high-speed steel, and they performed worse than the Bauer on the drill press, and they came with, I think, fewer bits, more money. It was $18 or $19 for 14 bits, where the Bauer was, I'd have to check, it may have been 21 bits or maybe 18 bits, but the Bauer was $13. And so it's a little bit more than the Dewalt, but it stayed so cool, which leads me to believe that it's going to do very, very well over a large number of holes, specifically in the drill press. I'd be willing to try that out. I'd probably drill 15 or 20 holes back to back, and I think it would do fairly well. Now the Dewalt Pilot Point did very well on the drill press as well, and the Pilot Point, as you can see, it has split points in steps, so it's like a step bit and a normal bit all in one. It did very well, although at high speed at that 1800, it did not like it at all, but it did do pretty good on the recommended range. So now actually we'll get to take a look and see what the so we get a look and see here how these bits actually perform. So I am using Grok to kind of break this down. It just helps summarize it. But yeah, so basically we can look the average time on each drill bit. The Dewalt Pilot Point on the 600 RPMs does perform the best. However, if you look over here at the Bauer, the Bauer performs really, really well, and it's only 104 degrees Celsius. Now I was taking these readings using a thermal imaging camera, and I set the emissivity to 0.61, 1, I believe, or 0.62. So, which has to do with the reflectiveness of the material, so that way it can be as accurate as possible. So, yeah, the Bauer bit maintaining that very, very low temperature along with a really solid speed tells me that there's just a very good chance that that bit is going to last for a good number of holes. And you can see the Cobalt here. The Cobalt was the slowest. The Dewalt high-speed steel performed really, really well, which I've always noticed. It's a very aggressive cutting bit. It does a super good job, but it is head and shoulders above the others in terms of its temperature. It is way too hot. Now, if we go down to the 1800 RPMs, we get to see that the Dewalt high-speed steel bits, these black gold, I can't explain why exactly, but it's just 3 seconds slower, where every other bit is drastically slower. Except for, it looks like the Cobalt didn't gain too much, but it's still, the Cobalt performed very poorly on the 600 RPM and the 1800 RPM. So even though percentage-wise it didn't get as terrible, it's just not a great bit. It doesn't perform well. But the Dewalt high-speed steel cut super, super aggressive with an average temperature of 183.3 Celsius. This bit is extremely hot. It cuts very aggressive. It does well at lower RPMs, and it does very well at higher RPMs. However, that temperature, so it's an average temperature, the actual temperature, it slowly climbs because that's how it is realistically. And you can see here that my Dewalt high-speed steel on hole 3 we're at 190 Celsius for the 600 RPMs, and at hole 3 1800 RPM, we're at 208 Celsius. So although that bit really maintains its cutting performance at the higher speeds, the temperature, that bit is going to degrade very, very quickly, which that actually does reflect my real world experience. I'm still going to keep using these bits because of the overall performance that they maintain, but I'm going to be kind of wary. They're very cheap bits, $9 or $10 for a pack of 14, and then I can simply throw them into my little pack out and go and get a bunch of fresh ones. So they do very, very well in terms of their cutting speed. I'm not typically drilling a huge number of holes. I have had to drill 30 to 40 holes before, I think on a 5/16 bit through half-inch steel. Now, normally I might use like a mag drill or something like that. This was an impromptu job, and we used what we had on the site. The Dewalt high-speed steel bits are what I used, and I was able to drill all of the 30 to 40 holes with one single bit. It was notably smoked though. So yeah, I'm gonna continue to keep these Dewalt high-speed steels in my bags, boxes, just kind of everywhere. So if we look, so remember, this is performance on a drill press. I'll have a video coming out again shortly. And what I'm testing how is the actual performance. So these drill bits on drill presses at 600 RPMs, they perform fantastic. I will always make sure to use the proper speed for that bit. On the 1800 RPM, one of the things is that if I had a more powerful drill press, yeah, I could have pushed these bits a lot harder. My speed kept dipping with the higher RPM, and it was actually tripping my centrifugal switch, and I was notably slowing down. So then I was coming up and relieving on some of my pressure in order to allow my bit to speed back up. That was not a problem at the 600 RPM. I never experienced it as an issue. So best to worst, the 600 RPM, and this is balanced of time and heat. So Grok is ranking it as Bauer, which I'm going to agree with that. It was a really impressive performing bit. It threw really wonderful chips, and it stayed very cool. I don't think it even cracked 110 Celsius on its third run. Let me see. No, it's 108 Celsius. I mean, this bit stayed very cool. Did a really good job. Then the Dewalt high-speed steel doing very well, but super hot. The Dewalt Pilot Point, that one did very well as well. However, I think that's like $40 for the set of the bits. On the drill press, I probably will keep a pack of fresh Bauers pretty much zip tied to that thing with how well they performed at their rated RPM. Now, in 1800, the fastest is the Dewalt high-speed steel, but it gets extremely hot. It's rating Cobalt as the second place due to decent time with the lowest heat. I guess that the heat probably is fairly low. I'm just not going to be running these bits on a drill press super fast. If I had to say why I would pick one or the other at 1800 RPM, it's going to be for a handheld drill. I am not going to be running these bits at 1800 RPMs. But the reason why I wanted to do this is I wanted to check to see what are these bits truly capable of on a drill press at their rated RPM. And, overall that leaves me walking away with the Bauer is, like I said, going to stay zip tied to that drill press. And I'm not going to care if we burn up a pack of them because it was like $13 or $14. And then seeing the performance at 1800 RPM on the drill press, how the Dewalt high-speed steel maintained that despite being ran wildly out of its recommended RPM. Like I said, that really reflects what my personal experience is. So now I do have a video that'll be coming out where I'm testing the drill bits using a hand drill. And I do use the drill in speed 1 at 600 RPM, and then I use it in speed 2, which winds up under a load being around 1900 RPM. So we really get to see what does it look like in terms of how well does the drill press test results transfer over to the drill. So I do hope that you liked this video. I hope that you understand the reason why you should stick with the recommended drill bit speeds. If you don't know about that, I'll put a link in the description where you'll be able to see what the recommended drill bit RPM is for your material and your diameter. So I will give you this, that if you're going to be using if you don't feel like switching it, just understand that your bit is not necessarily going to perform as it should. You're going to have a really high RPM range on your drill press, and your very low diameter bits are going to have a very high RPM requirement for them to cut properly. If you don't follow that, I think that's pretty clearly shown here. You're not going to get the performance that you expect. So don't throw out a particular drill bit brand because it's not performing. Double check, make sure you're using the right RPM for the material that you are drilling. So again, my name is Ken from Carolina Professional Repair. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd really like to get some feedback so that way I can try to make these videos a little bit better and a little bit more educational.